Hello, I'm Olivia Mattis, delighted to welcome all of you today on behalf of the Sousa Mendes Foundation to another, I think, very important story of rescue, of Jewish rescue. We focus here at the Sousa Mendes Foundation mainly on World War II and the heroic story of the rescuer Aristides de Sousa Mendes, the Portuguese consul general who in 1940, against the orders of his government, saved thousands of people by issuing them visas to Portugal. And he paid a very heavy price. And since 2020, we've been holding these programs. We started weekly, now we do approximately twice a month, focusing on other inspiring, beautiful stories. And here you have a story of the rescue of a Jewish community that was isolated from other Jewish communities for thousands of years. They thought they were the only Jews on earth. And it's quite a dramatic story to do with their rescue. You saw a beautiful film by Levi Zinni, who is one of our speakers today. I will let all three of our speakers be introduced by our moderator, who is Richard Horowitz. Richard is a prolific author, and most germane for today's program, he is the author of the important book In the Garden of the Righteous, where he focuses on rescue during World War II. He tells 10 rescue stories in his 10 chapters, chapter 1 being the story of our hero, Aristides de Sousa Mendes, which is how Richard and I first met. I was delighted when Richard agreed to moderate today's program, so now I'm going to turn the floor over to Richard Horowitz. Richard, take it away.
Thank you, Olivia. It's always a pleasure to be here with the Sousa Mendes Foundation and this amazing, very inspiring series that you do, which is always a wonderful way to spend a part of Sunday afternoon. I've personally found the story of the Ethiopian Jews extraordinarily fascinating for a long time, and I believe they're believed to be sort of the descendants of the lost tribe of Dan, and as you mentioned, were sort of on their own for many years. I agree with you. It's a rescue. It's a different kind of rescue than what we talk about during World War II, but the state of Israel was set up in large part to be a haven for Jewish communities. And in a number of times, there have been the need for wholesale rescues after the fall of the Soviet Union, the evacuation of the Yemeni Jews, and perhaps what we're here to talk about today is maybe among the most fascinating, which is as you saw in the movie, Operation Moses and Operation Solomon, and the just sort of general evacuation of the Ethiopian Jews to Israel. So we're joined today by three really interesting, impressive speakers. We're first going to hear from MEHERETA BARUCH-RON, who is an Israeli politician, an actress, and was both the first woman of Ethiopian descent to be on the Tel Aviv-Yafo City Council, and then was the former deputy mayor of Tel Aviv. She was born in Ethiopia and was rescued to Israel during Operation Moses in the 80s. And in case you didn't notice, she was also the narrator of the film that we saw for today's program. Then we'll hear from Levi Zinni, who is the filmmaker. He's a prolific documentary filmmaker who directed this film. He is the chief commissioner of Channel 8 documentary films in Israel, and has twice received the award for documentary filmmaking from the Minister of Education, and he's on the board of the Israeli Documentary Forum. And then we're very pleased to hear from Dr. Shmuel Lagasa, who is also from Ethiopia, although as he'll hear from his story, his journey of Aliyah took a more unusual route than most Ethiopians. He holds a PhD from Yeshiva University and was a student of the great Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. He has had a very fascinating career where he's worked in law enforcement as well, in both here in New York, where I'm sitting, and in Jerusalem. And he's a prolific opinion columnist for the Times of Israel and the Jerusalem Post. And he's the author of the forthcoming book, Moral Diplomacy for a Broken World, about the spiritual legacy of his mentor, Rabbi Sacks. So with that, I'm going to now turn it over to MEHERETA.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Olivia. At the age of 9, I was bought my first pair of shoes. Until then, I walked in the village barefoot. In one exciting morning, my father announced, "MEHERETA, we are going to the big city of Gondar to buy you a pair of shoes." For the first time in my life, I go to big city of Gondar. For the first time in my life, I drink sweet tea in a glass in a cafe. And for the first time in my life, I bought a pair of black rubber shoes that I was supposed to start my journey to Jerusalem, a journey that changed my life from end to end, a journey that at the end of it, I became a proud Israeli citizen, a social activist, and a deputy mayor of Tel Aviv-Yafo. I would like now to take you back to my childhood in a village called Saramle, near Gondar, as you can see in the map. And the habitats in our village, most of them were Jewish, which means we could practice Judaism without being in danger, because not everywhere in Ethiopia you could announce that you are Jewish and be safe. For example, my sister, who was in some point had to study her high school in Gondar city, couldn't tell her neighbor that she was Jewish. And when they realized that, discovered that she was Jewish, they actually burned her laundry and her clothing, and as she had to escape from the city. So the Ethiopian Jewish community, as you mentioned, Olivia, was disconnected from the Jewish world for thousands of years. And actually, most of the time, the Jewish community in Ethiopia was persecuted because of our religion. And because we were disconnected from the Jewish world, we were convinced that we are the only remaining Jewish in the world. So we had this responsibility to keep the Jewish nation alive. So there were times that we were strong, and they say that even we had a Jewish queen in Ethiopia in the 10th century, but most of the time we were persecuted, and we endured those persecutions because we had this mission to keep the Jewish nation alive. And in our village, actually, the life in the village in Saramle was quite simple. Every family has its own small farm. We made a living from our farm. So every member in the family has its own tasks and jobs. And when from a very young age, my task was to help my brothers to graze the sheep and the cattle. And when I became a little bit older, I had this big jug that I used to carry on my back, and bring water from the spring to the house, because we didn't have running water in our house. And in the evenings, my uncle, who was a kind of religious leader, used to gather us and tell us stories about the Bible and about Jerusalem. He said that we don't belong here. We don't belong to Ethiopia. And actually, our neighbors used to name us Falasha. Falasha meaning invaders, people who don't belong to the country. And he said, our real place, our real home is Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, we can worship God and be safe. And he described Jerusalem as it is a heaven on earth. And of course, when I heard those stories, I wanted very much to get to Jerusalem. And fortunately, when I was 9 years old, there was a real talking about the possibility to get to Jerusalem. And there was stories or people talking about families leaving their villages and start a journey towards Jerusalem, actually towards Sudan. And in a few months, my family also started to get the preparation. And during the preparation, I understood, because I didn't get any much information about the journey and everything, because everything was in secret. Actually, we had to escape from Ethiopia, and all the preparation made secretly. But I understood that only who is strong enough can make this journey, and those who are too old or sick cannot join with us. And I understood that my grandparents are not coming with us, and my mother decided to stay with her parents. And eventually, in one of the nights, we left our village and we escaped from our village and started the journey toward Sudan. First, we walked only at night, and we were hiding during the day. When we were far from the villages, we could sleep a little bit at night and walk for hours during the day. A very long journey, 700 kilometers. It was, I did it mainly by foot, and you remember my shoes, the black rubber shoes. They didn't help much, and I throw it away, and I walked, and I did my journey to Jerusalem, actually, eventually barefoot. And 700 kilometers, weeks, we got to the refugee camp in Sudan. When we arrived to Sudan, we realized that we were not the first family who got there. We met families who arrived there months before us, maybe a year and a half, and they look exhausted, they look helpful, sick, and we understood that Jerusalem is still far away. I spent in those refugee camps in Sudan for 6 months. And fortunately, after 6 months, me and my sister was lucky to be airlifted and to be taken to Jerusalem. So me and my sisters eventually arrived in Israel, in a boarding school in Israel. And when we arrived there, we didn't know, of course, the language. We didn't know the culture. I remember me worrying about my family left behind, my brothers and my father in Sudan and the rest of the family in Ethiopia. And I even couldn't ask a question in Hebrew and ask where are they and if they are okay, and how will I know if they are already arrived in Israel. And the only thing that I could do in those days, and I did, is praying and asking God to bring them healthy and safety to Israel. And fortunately, God listened to my prayers, because a few weeks later, my father and my brothers came from Sudan to Israel, but it took about 6 years of prayer until my mother and the rest of my family joined us in Israel in 1991. So to summarize this journey of the Ethiopian community and put it into dates and numbers, you can see that between 1977 and 1984, about 12,000 of the Ethiopian community left their villages and walked to Sudan, to the refugee camps in Sudan. As I mentioned, a quarter of the people who arrived to those refugee camps actually died there. 4,000 Ethiopian Jews lost their life in the refugee camp in Sudan, and 8,000 of of 8,000 Ethiopian Jews were airlifted from Sudan via Belgium to Israel. And why Belgium? Because a Jewish philanthropist by the name George Gutelman actually contributed his airplanes to the Mossad, and because of his contribution, our life were saved, and 8,000 Ethiopian Jews arrived in Israel in the 80s. In 1989, the Ethiopian community gathering in Addis Ababa, waiting for the Israeli government to rescue them. And in 1991, I think one of the most beautiful stories of the Jewish nation happened with Operation Salomon, operation that 30 airplanes landed in Addis Ababa airport. And in 36 hours, they airlifted for about 14,000 Ethiopian Jews from Addis Ababa to Israel. And actually, a world record was set in those hours when 1,088 people got into one Boeing 747, and actually 1,086 people entered to the airplane, but 2 babies were born during the flight. So yeah, a world record was set, and a few thousands immigrated later, and there are still Ethiopian community waiting to come to Israel. So to conclude my short presentation, my father, who was a big dreamer, my father and his generation, for thousands of years, were dreaming about Jerusalem. He made us get to Jerusalem, and you can see him here kissing me in my wedding, and he actually gave me the responsibility to continue the journey toward the Israeli society and to help my children to become fully integrated Israelis. You can see in this picture, one of my favorite picture in my family album is my mother and my husband's mother, the two grandmothers, covering my child during his bar mitzvah with the talit, passing this tradition and from generation to generation. And I feel responsible to keep the state of Israel alive and to be the place that actually a place of to secure the Jewish nation. And that's why I'm also active in politics. So that's my presentation, my short presentation, and now I'd love to present Levi Zini, the creator and the director of the movie, of the great movie. He actually gave us the voice to tell this story to the Israeli society, to ourselves, and eventually to the Jewish nation around the world. Levi, toda rabba lecha al kach. Thank you very much for that. So, the floor is yours.
Pleasure. Thank you. So I'm just the director. Let's say I am the Faranji. That's the way the Ethiopian people call white people. So I'm white people. I belong to the white peoples. And in a way, I heard the stories and try to tell the stories by the film. Actually, the film was broadcast in Israel as a 5-episode series, and we gather it and we cut it to 9 minutes film, so people could see, we can show it to people. Otherwise, it was about 250 minutes, so nobody is gonna watch it. Actually, what we should remember is that Israel is an immigrant society, and we all arrived from our parents anyway. They arrived from all over the world, and actually in 1948, where the Jewish state established, there was a very little population, Jews population in Israel, and they called every Jew to come and join the new Jewish state. And they arrived from East European survivors from the Holocaust and from the Maghreb in North Africa, which my parents arrived, and from all over the world, and nobody wants the Ethiopian Jews. In 48, nobody in Israel wanted we didn't call them to come to Israel and to be part of building the new state. There is a few reasons to that, and in the film we spoke about it, but it was a fact. They didn't want, the Israeli didn't want them to come. There was from religious reasons, there are people that will say because of their color and so on, but Israel did nothing to bring them home. No, I'm not correct. It's not nothing. They asked for, actually it was about 24 young Ethiopian Jew in the age from 10 to 12 that came to Israel, and they stayed in a school that called Kfar Batya, and here they try to teach them how to be a real Jews, Orthodox Jews, and after they finished the time in Israel, they went back to be teachers in Ethiopia and to teach the Ethiopian people what is the meaning of being Orthodox Jew. They suffered a lot. Let's put it that way. And they wanted to arrive to Israel. They dreamed about Jerusalem, and the government in Jerusalem was ignoring them. Actually, when in 75, there was a civilian war in Ethiopia, and 77, I think. I'm not sure I remember correctly, but I think it was 77, and a lot of people, Ethiopian, was running to Sudan because it was starving in Ethiopia, and it was a war. So the Jews the Jews actually understood that there is an opportunity to get out. You should remember that before, Israel has a very good connection with the Ethiopian government. There was our buddies, the Ethiopian government, and the government doesn't want the Jews to leave Ethiopia. They want them to stay. And then when the civilian war started, they found an opportunity to run away from Ethiopia, the Jews. And so a lot of Jews made their way to Sudan. So they walked through very tough journey to Sudan, and in Sudan they had to be part of the refugee camps, very awful refugee camps. And then it actually the first rescue of Jews from Sudan to Israel was by boat, Bat Galim boat, in 1982. It was the Mossad did the operation and so on, but I would like to put light about the North American association, which was very active by fighting so the Jews that suffered death and in Sudan will to rescue. They pushed the Israeli government. They pushed everybody. What they did, whatever they can, to rescue the Jewish the Ethiopian Jews. Usually, when the Israeli don't tell the story, but without them it wouldn't be happened. And I think I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful to all the Jewish communities that took part in it. And you should remember it was the same years that there was a fight about the Jews in the Soviet Union. That and they fought for both, for the Ethiopian Jews and for the Soviet Union Jews. Now all the people, you can imagine what MEHERETA told about the village in Gondar. Okay, keep going with you see, that's the way it's a village was looking. Am I correct, MEHERETA?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was about to share actually a movie showing that, but your picture is great also. Exactly like this kind of life we lived in Ethiopia in the 80s.
So that's from the villages in Gondar, and this is Kesim, the Kohanim. Those spiritual leaders of the community, they kept them Jews in a country, Christian country, that actually the Christianity is quite similar to Judaism. By the way, the Operation Moses was finished not because all the Jews arrived to Israel. It's stopped because somebody talked about it, and the Sudanese was decided to stop the flying, the rescue flying from Khartoum to Europe and to Israel. And there was quite a lot left behind in Sudan. And the second operation is then arrived most of the community to Israel. And what happens in Israel to them, it's one day we'll tell this. And MEHERETA could tell about it, but what's happened to all immigration in Israel since 48? That's the way Israel how do you say קליטה? איך אומרים קליטה, MEHERETA?
Absorption, absorb.
Okay. That's the way we put. It was not easy to be an Israeli, to a young man or young woman that arrived from Ethiopia, from a different culture to Israel, and the Israeli can be quite tough and quite unpleasant.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Shmuel Agasa. In 1998, in a summer, on Shabbat day, I was Upper East Side in New York. And I was in the synagogue, one of the modern Orthodox Beit Knesset, or, synagogue. And after Kiddush, I was going downstairs with the rabbi, after, the morning prayer, we're going downstairs for Kiddush. And a young woman by the age 86, she tapped my back and she said, "Are you Jewish?" on my ear in a very soft voice. I said, "Yes." She said, "But you are a little dark, which means you are a black, but she was respectful to say that you are a little dark. Anyway, yes, we are Jewish from ancient Jewish from Ethiopia. And my family, they have a unique story. My father family and my mother family in Gondar, in their village, those two families, they fight when they try to dig a soil for clay, to make a clay or pottery. They are potters, they make clay. And the two families, they fought, and then somebody died in that fight. I don't know, detail, Anyway, they make peace, and the family promise to one another, when you have a daughter, your daughter will gonna get married, my son. The other family said, the son is my father, and the daughter, which she was not born even yet, is my mom. Anyway, and again, after some years, my father was 17 years or something in the village, the same kind of situation happened with the same kind of family, and they fought back again. Okay, my father was 17 years old, I think, that time. My mom, she could be 3 years old, 4 years old that time. And my father knows now he would not be able to marry that girl when she grow up. Anyway, she was promised to him. Anyway, he take my mom and he ran out from the village to Addis Ababa. In this time, in this generation, it would be like other things. But anyway, he ran out. He ran away. The 16 years old young boy takes like a 4 years old little girl, neighbor girl, whatever, community girl, down in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. He doesn't know anyone. He doesn't know anything. He take this girl as he claimed to be her brother. He take her. They arrive in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, the capital city of Ethiopia. And then, he doesn't have anything to, he have no job, anything. Anyway, he has to create a job, and he become a daily labor, and they are like sleeping on a corner or somewhere. And anyway, that time, King Haile Selassie, he was building his first mall. And in the Mercato, Addis Ababa, the center, it's called Amade Gebeya. He was building a mall. And King Haile Selassie came to visit the digging part of the, future mall. And then he saw my father. He was sitting in all the way like a big pile of stone. He was sitting to see the king coming to visit the foundation. And the king saw this nice looking young man, nice looking. He looked like a very nice, handsome young man with curly, smooth hair. He looked like Indian. And anyway, he just called him from afar, my father. He said, "Oh, young man, you look handsome. How old are you?" He asked him. He told him, "Your honor." He bowed down, whatever. He told him how old he is. And anyway, he told him, "Look, what you doing here?" He said, "I'm a daily laborer. I came from afar, from Gondar area. Okay, no. You don't be daily laborer anyway. Now you can be my God, my police, my guard." He became honor guard to the king, to the King Haile Selassie. And then, he raised up his sister, his, future wife, and they grow up together. They make a family, and that's their first wedding in Addis Ababa. Now he become Addis Ababa, like Addis Ababian. And the first, the third and the fourth in my father wedding. That's, after he became a honor guard for the King Haile Selassie, that was his wedding with my mom. And this is my father and my mother. And my mother also became a Polish woman. And because right after the king, the king fall down, and when the king fall down in the new government, the communist region, Derg, he changed those honor guard to be a police force. These are my 5 brothers and 1 sister. They are my brothers and my sisters, from that miracle father and mother. Next, please, I want to show them my family and my progress story. Yes, that's my beautiful mother. My father, he couldn't make it, to Israel, but my mom, because he passed away, my mom, and from Addis, she make Aliyah. My father didn't make it, he passed away. But when he was, before he passed away, always, every Saturday night, he was teaching us from a Torah portion, the Bible, the Torah. He was teaching us and telling us who we are. He said, you are the children of Israel. You are the Falash al-Joj. You are the Falash al-Joj. And he told me, specifically to me, my son, I can see one day you will tell the nation that we have right to live in the state of Israel, our hoping and, our hoping destination, last destination to all our people. And he was inserting that ideology, like Jewish life and Judaism, in us. And he was a very Zionist person. And all of us, we were Zionists. And all Ethiopian Jewish, we didn't learn halakha, like a book like that, but we were taught life practice. All our life practice, if you see it through the modern Orthodox lifestyle, we live it daily. After graduate from the university, Addis Ababa University, I made it to university. Right after the university, I was able to get a chance with the United Nations to come to New York. And in New York, I was working for a year. After a year, I became a servant, a public servant or child protective specialist for social service of New York. And I was field worker for CPS, child protective specialist for social service of New York in a Bronx field office. And then from then I made Aliyah in 2008 and joined my mother, who already made Aliyah there in Israel. She was living there. And I joined her, and I was told I was the only one who made Aliyah as an American, Ethiopian American and in Israel. And I was there, and at that time I volunteered 2 years to the police force. I served in the police force, and then I joined the Hebrew University. And at the same time, next slide, please. And I was activist with our youth, because the same thing what I was doing in New York, I was trying to do in Jerusalem to make youth leadership programs. And I was doing that. And I was getting a blessing from our chief rabbis at time for Ethiopian community, and chief case for our Ethiopian community in YERUSALEM, and Case Adana and Rav Yosef Adana. They were blessing me, and I was doing outreach for youth to be integrated in Israeli society. I was doing that. Then this is one of the leadership trip. I take them to different places. And also I was assistant for international foreign affairs as a volunteer for the Knesset. And one of the second Knesset member of our community, member Knesset Honorable Shalom Mola, he was a member of Knesset at that time. I was working for international affairs with him. Next, please. Then, during that time also, now the current chief rabbi, Rabbi Reuven Wubishet, I used to learn under his feet in just about our root and our Jewish identity. I was really deep in it because I just felt like connection to our root. Next, please. Okay, right after that, I was blessed to get scholarship in America, in Yeshiva University, to study doctorate, and I was honored because academical level, and the first year after completing the first year, and for my research presentation, and I want to honor light by Richard Joel, Honorable Richard Joel, the university director, and as the main annual dinner time, and I was lighting the candle, the Hanukkah candle on that time. Okay, Baruch Hashem, this time I wrote some article with about Rabbi Jonathan Sachs' ideology and some other things in YU's publication, and my wife, she saw, and that time she was not my wife, and we were discussing that thing, and we get to know each other, and we end up to get married, and this time we were engaged, and I brought her to introduce my family in Israel, and then we get married 2014 in Cedarhurst, New York, in Sephardic temple in Cedarhurst, New York. Next, please. Okay, during that time, I was able to serve the city of New York as a detective with the Supreme and Family Court at the same time. And also I created an educational program for young criminals, not to especially related with gun violence, to make peace and restoration peace. And I was creating that program, and I was running and heading that program with Kings County Supreme Court in New York City Supreme Court. Next. Okay, Baruch Hashem, this is the birth of my first son, Shalom Ovadia Lagasa. He was named after his Dr. Shalom Rudansky, and who passed away when he was pregnant, and Rav Ovadia Yosef, Zachar Labaracha, who honored our Ethiopian Jews, and by declaring we are Jewish and return back to Israel. And that's why my first son, his name is Shalom Ovadia Lagasa. Lagasa is my last name. Shalom is his grandfather's name, and Ovadia is Ovadia Yosef. Next, please. That was his birth. Okay, during my stay in Yeshiva University, I was so blessed to learn with our generation philosopher, Jewish philosopher, Rabbi and teacher, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zachar Labracha. Next, please. Yes, in Baruch Hashem, in 2003, I was able to be graduate from YU, but I was fascinated by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs' education and thoughts and ideology, and I promised to Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, even before he passed, I was gonna pass his thoughts and legacy and ideology to the coming generation, and I will write articles about that. But by the help of Hashem, I complete a book, and still, I'm still seeking volunteers for publication. If anybody is willing, you can, contact, our director, Dr. Olivia Mattis, and, volunteer to sponsor that book to be out to the public. Next, please. This is my graduation with Rabbi Ari Berman, YU director, and this is the conclusion of my presentation this moment, with all my family, my children, and my mom on the back, and my mother-in-law all the way in the back, also my mother-in-law, and the rest, my wife with the head cover this side, and the rest is my children, Shalom Ovadia, Abaye Lagasa, Abaye Seif Lagasa, and Miriam, and Eliyahu, we call him Eliyahu. Eliyahu was born right after October 7, after we made Aliyah in Israel. We call him Eliyahu because we were hoping the redemption and the salvation of our people. And we were scared at that time, especially it was difficult for my kids, American kids, bringing them. We made Aliyah right before October 7, and like August 24, we made Aliyah. October, the things happen. And for young children, that was like for Americans, kids, it was really difficult, even for us. But Baruch Hashem, we made it, and we are here. And this is my short story.
Yes, how wonderful. So I'm going to ask the audience to have a little forbearance. I think we're going to run a little bit over today because we want to get to your questions. But before that, I want to make just a few announcements to give Richard the time to collect your questions, and then we will get to them. So here are the announcements. First of all, if you like these programs that we do, we urge you to still get a season ticket. They are still available. We are putting the link in the chat box. I saw that someone got a season ticket during today's program, so thank you very much. And it's a wonderful way to be signed up for everything for the entire year. So that's number one. Second thing is that we have 3 wonderful programs upcoming in March. The first of which is next week, March 1st. So March 1st, we are shining a spotlight on the Jewish female hero of Henrietta Zold. She was a leader, a pioneer of youth Aliyah, and she was also the founder of Hadassah. So we're showing this prize-winning film that was just completed about her called Labors of Love. I hope you'll all sign up. So that's next week. Then 2 weeks after that, we are focusing on another rescuer. His name was Khaled Abdul Wahab, and he was a Tunisian Muslim rescuer. And a lot of people don't understand that the Holocaust actually extended into North Africa. There was a whole North African campaign. The Jews there were in mortal danger, as they were in Europe. And here was this Tunisian man who rescued 24 people. This Arab Muslim Tunisian man rescued 24 Jews. So we are showing that film about Khaled, and we have a man whose family was saved by him, and that's another program you will not want to miss. Then at the very end of March, we are having a book launch event. The author is Luke Berryman, and his book is called Resisting Nazism, and it's about all of these inspiring stories of resistance. But right now, we're going to show you a little trailer of the film about Henrietta Zold.
I guess you could say she was the greatest Jewish feminist icon you've never heard of.
Henrietta Zold remains a beacon to me because she was a woman who had a vision and got things done.
She saved many, many thousands of children and gave them new lives.
It was people like Henrietta Zold. They advocated for what they saw as a binational state, a state in which Jews and Arabs would have equal representation running the state.
Henrietta's vision of bringing social welfare to both the Jews and the Arabs in the early 20th century was very unusual, if not unique.
Every time she saw something that wasn't working according to her values, she changed it. And the things that she created are here till this day, 100 years later.
So I urge all of you to sign up for these programs. And now I'm going to turn the floor back over to Richard, who's going to handle your questions.
Yes, thank you. And if anyone has any other questions, please put them in the chat. There are a number of questions that were coming in about the sort of beliefs of the the traditional Ethiopian Jews, and there's a lot of fascination with the fact that they're they were effectively practicing kind of First Temple Judaism. There's a few questions as to like what exactly is the differences between, between the sort of Ethiopian practice and the more traditional, practice in Israel, and then to what extent have since people have made Aliyah, has the community changed its traditions or its practices in Israel? Maybe for MEHERETA and Shmuel.
Meheret, you can go. You know better than me.
Thank you, Shmuel. I'm not sure, and I'm not an historian, but I can tell from my own experience and from the traditions that my parents passed to me. I think that, as I said, we were disconnected from the Jewish world, so we didn't have the Mishnah and the Talmud. So the way we practice Judaism is like it's written almost in the Bible, and we kept some traditions that no longer exist in the Jewish calendar, in the modern Jewish calendar, like nida, which means during when women give birth, or she's during her cycle, she isolated, like it's written in the Bible. When she gave birth, 40 days for the birth of son, and 80 days for the birth of a daughter, a girl. We didn't celebrate Purim because those were later holidays that I guess we didn't got it. Hanukkah. So in many ways, the way we practice Judaism, it was practiced in the first temple. And when we arrived to Israel, our Judaism was questioned, as Levi Zini mentioned, and we were not Jewish enough for the Jewish world. And in some point, we had to reconvert in order to become fully Jewish. And some of the community had to do this humiliating act of circumstance and such. So I feel like the way we practice Judaism, the way we kept the Judaism is the real one. That's
right.
what I feel.
Yeah.
We are the origin Jewish. So
right.
When we arrived to Israel, we were not pushing to be isolated from the Jewish world. We said we eventually joined the Jewish nation, and there were some changes, and we accept those changes, and we want to be part of the Jewish people. And that's the way we practice the Judaism in Israel.
Thank you. So there's another question. Someone is wondering about sort of the prevalence of racism in Israel. Is that something you encounter or people encounter? Is that how widespread is that? Is it a problem?
Maybe give that question to Shmuel.
Yeah. Okay. Look, nobody to be judged. We are not here to be judge anyone, but we have fact in human history. There is racism, and there was, and there is still. And in America, they did a lot of progress and a lot of differences, but still, a person like me made it in America, New York, and I was able to work in the city and state court. And that doesn't mean there is some kind of discrimination, but there is a progress, there is change. I think in Israel also there is, but there still need to get more progress and change. And whoever told you there's none, you know what? Let me tell you one thing. There is no perfect government in any place, any countries. And racism is human sin. This is our mistake, as human. For this reason, yes, there is racism in Israel. But the thing is, the way how it is applied and how it is, and we are not here to badge our country, our state. We are here to grow together by learning from one another. Them learning, anyone learning from us, we learning from anyone. And like Merhet said, when we come here, we see our forefather thief. There was no any other Jewish. We never see any white people. They never see. And we taught that what we have is what we have. Let me tell you one thing. Even our own people, when they come to Yerushalayim, they thought there was Beit HaMakdash. They didn't know it was destruction, all that and this. What I'm trying to say is, in any society, in a white and black, whatever, most society in this world, in this generation, yes, there is racism. The level might be different in the law, the affirmative action, and the application, how it's supported, might be different. And look, there is. And that doesn't make our beautiful, hopeful country down. But it shows we are a growing nation and we can grow together.
Thank you.
A couple more questions.
Yeah, I think one more, Olivia, is that there's a bunch of questions kind of about the operation.
I mean, if Meheret disagree with me, she can give her a chance. I respect her opinion. She knows much better than me.
I think you said the most of it. Yes, there is racism in Israel. As you said, it's a kind of part of the human nature, but I don't agree with you that we have more racism than in America. I think eventually the common ground between the Ethiopian community and the Israeli society from Europe, from North Africa, more connected than I think the history of slaves and African brought to America as slaves. It's totally different. I feel like I returned to my country. So and my husband, who his father came from Germany and his mother from Poland, he also came to this country. So this is our country, and we are diverse, and it's okay. And unfortunately, we also have some racist people here in Israel.
So I guess last question. There's some questions about why the operation was so secret, particularly given that the government, I think, of Ethiopia was paid. So I don't know if you have any insight into that, but why was it done in such a clandestine manner?
Levi?
The Jews in Sudan was they didn't tell they are Jews because it was an enemy country, Sudan, and its enemy from the Israelis, and they was part of the refugee camp, and they tried to be Muslims over there, that nobody noticed them. So there is no, and Sudan was an enemy country to Israel, and actually the Moses operation was signed by George Bush, the father, as a vice president of Reagan at that time, with the leader of Sudan. I forgot his name, and it was an American operation, actually, that the Israelis just take part of it. But it was led by the American. And in the Solomon operation was when the government in Ethiopia was about to, there was again a civilian war in Ethiopia, and they just has to flew out in 36 hours. And again, let's speak about the American Jews. They paid for the Jews to save them. I mean, to take them out of Ethiopia. They paid Mengistu, the leader of Ethiopia. I'm not sure about we say it's in the film. I can't remember exactly what is the price for Jew at that time.
Wow. Well, this leads me back to Richard. Richard, I'm going to give you the last word, and then I'm going to thank everybody. But Richard,
Well, I mean, this was certainly fascinating. It's wonderful to hear sort of how the vision of Israel as a haven has been honored, how, the rescue and the sort of solidarity of the Jewish community globally continues. And so I find this a very optimistic, hopeful conversation. I think, Olivia, you have definitely a lot of demand for a part two, if only to talk about the people seem very fascinated by the differences in the practices that were going on. And in some ways, I guess it's a window into our own past, into the first temple period. So I think, but thank you all three of you for teaching us on such a fascinating topic.
Yes. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our moderator, Richard Horowitz, and to our loyal audience. See you all next week for Henrietta's Old. Those of you who are on the East Coast being battered by snow right now, stay safe, stay warm. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.